What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We're here for a live version of the Real Estate Happy Hour, and this is going to be basically trending topics, what's going on. We had a lot going on in the city of Albany this week. NCAA brought March Madness here. It was exciting, but it wasn't just sports, it was news too. And we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about Rebecca Lobo's comment, good luck finding something to do in Albany. We're going to talk the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark dilemma, LSU versus Iowa, good versus evil, dirty debutantes, all that stuff that came up this week. Kim Mulkey's Washington Post article. It's just so much to talk about. We jam packed it in a few days, so I'm really excited to talk about this, and we're gonna have a great show. Now, before we get to that, we're going to talk about our sponsors, which is me, the Chris Wright team at Oxford Property Group. Brenda and I, we have just started this team. We're on fire. We have a lot of business. So if you're looking to buy, sell, invest, or anything like that, make sure that you give me a call, give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Oxford Property Group, we're out in Boston Spa. And you know what? We're making move. We're making some things happen. So let's get into the week that was March Madness. Kudos to all the people who put in all the work getting downtown Albany ready for this epic event. The hotels, the MVP arena, the streets, the police officers, law enforcement, first responders, everybody. You did an amazing job. It went on without incident. I did see there was a gunshot. No one got shot, but I heard there was some gunshots heard in the vicinity of MVP Arena. But other than that, we didn't make national news for anything except March Madness, and that's a good thing. If you remember the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl, they had a shooting during the parade. We escaped all of that. And in 2024, with as many people that was coming through our city and our town, that's really a great thing. So kudos to the city of Albany for holding such an epic event. So this thing is covering my face. But anyway, let's get into it. I want to that way. So I want to make sure that I did give props to all of the people who worked so hard to make this event happen. Great. So what else? So let's get right into it. Let's talk Kim Mulkey. So Kim Mulkey, she's the iconic and legendary, infamous basketball coach of the LSU Tigers women's basketball team. She was in the news quite a bit. And Albany got dragged a little bit this week, and people are still talking about it today. Um, Kim Mulkey, she started her week by talking about the hotel accommodations in Albany. Listen, Albany's a small city, okay? And when we get big events like March Madness, and we had men's March Madness last year, which I attended. I did not attend this year's, but we're getting the Belmont Stakes as part of the Triple Crown this year. So the capital region of New York is going to be in the news a lot in 2024. But when you are in the news like this and you're going to get big events, it's a big heat lamp and it's a big spotlight. So you can expect that nationally, you're going to hear some very flattering things about our area, and you're going to hear some not so flattering things about our area. So Kim Mulkey started the week talking about the hotel accommodations and how they booked these March Madness events too early, and quite possibly the hotels aren't always prepared. Her quote was, when you bring in 8 teams, do you have 8 hotels that are all of equal value to each team? Probably not. No, I don't know why she thinks that each team needs to have a hotel. No, quite a few teams can share one hotel. So I'm not sure where she was going with this, but she just was saying that it wasn't each hotel wasn't of equal status. Now, I know downtown Albany, we got the Renaissance. I think there's the Hampton Inn and Suites. Um, and there's a couple of hotels, the Crown Plaza, I believe, still down there. I don't know. I don't go downtown a whole lot anymore. And we'll talk about that in a little while. But she was saying when you bring 8 teams, do you have 8 hotels that are of equal value that are all the same? Probably not. She goes, I don't know how many cities do. And she goes, but that is a concern that when they schedule March Madness events, Elite Eight, Sweet 16s, that there should be enough hotels to not only accommodate the teams and the coaches and staff, but also all the people that travel in. So that's how the week started. And then Lisa Blutter, who's the coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes, she said Seattle was great for us. They were very well prepared. She said they were in great hotels. Seattle was really good. And she goes, Albany, obviously the hotels aren't as plentiful and maybe as nice as Seattle's. Another jab to the city of Albany and our accommodations. But that's kind of where the week started. And it was kind of weird, but kudos to Albany for putting that on. Next thing that happened is that Washington Post, they timed a release of an article on Coach Mulkey right around the time of the March Madness. Some people called it a hit piece. I kind of called it a hit piece because of the timing. I just thought that, wow, they waited right until LSU was going to be playing and they decided to put this article out as the Washington Post knew that they would get clicks and they would sell papers and ads. Kim Mulkey says she was prepared to sue the newspaper. She got pretty heated over nothing. I mean, actually, the story was a big nothing burger. And but it only stayed hot for like 24 hours and then it was over. The whole article was written about how Kim Mulkey was raised in rural Louisiana, how she became estranged from her father and sister, and now basically she raises hell with the women's basketball team. Other players, maybe there was some favoritism towards some players and others. It even mentioned something about her, I don't know, fraternization with gay players, or I don't know. She had, what's the tall girl's name who now plays in the WNBA? Brittany Griner. She used to tell Brittany Griner, like, don't be so open about your gay relationship and you're flaunting it in front of a, and we know that Kim Mulkey's, she votes red. She's very conservative. Not that it has anything to do with it, but I guess a lot of them think that if you're going to be gay, keep it under wraps and you don't have to flaunt it in front of everybody. And so I think Brittany Griner took some heat for that. Also, when Brittany Griner was arrested in Russia and she was in jail, Mulkey had nothing to say, didn't offer any words of condolences or prayers for her, and that was one of her top players in her history of coaching. So I don't know. Anyway, so that was Kim Mulkey. She was in the news a lot during March Madness. So needless to say, she's gone, and we'll probably see her next year because she seems to make the tournament every year, or in the Elite Eight, Final Four. So we will see a lot more of Kim Mulkey in the coming years. All right, what was next? The LA Times did an article about the UCLA LSU game, and man, they called them the dirty debutantes, good versus evil. And, the LSU players felt a little something about that. They felt a way about that. And it was just one thing you have to understand, though. It was the LA Times. UCLA is in Los Angeles. Of course, they're going to take some digs at LSU. Of course, they're going to take some digs at the South and the conservative country Southern Kim Mulkey and her players. But it was a bad article. It was a bad dig at the players. Calling them dirty debutantes wasn't cool. Putting things in your article like villains versus America's sweethearts. People could find a little bit of a tinge of racism in that. A tinge. It just didn't go over too well. All right, so I just wanted to point that out, but that did make the news. Again, LSU has been taking hits all week, being dragged, and a lot of people felt some kind of way about that, and I totally understand. But I thought the term "dirty debutantes," I know it has a history and a racist connotation, um, but LA Times have since apologized. The editors apologized. The writer apologized. I heard someone say, I think it was Shannon Sharp, say, when you say something in the courtroom and the other attorney say, "I object," and the judge says, "Objection sustained," it's too late. The jury's already heard it. So you can do all the apologies you want. Um, it doesn't matter. It's out there. But that was in the news with the dirty debutantes, good versus evil, America's sweethearts versus basketball villains. All right, let's get into the whole rivalry, LSU versus Iowa. These two teams, I don't know if it's going to be the same going forward because Caitlin Clark's going to the WNBA. Angel Reese hasn't decided. I think because they lost yesterday, she might go back to college to join her teammate, Flau'jae Johnson, and try and win another title before she graduates. Because she's already getting millions of dollars in NIL money. She'll probably make more in NIL money than she will on a WNBA team. I can't see her ever going to um, Europe or Russia to play or Spain because she doesn't need to. She makes enough money in endorsements and advertisements that she can actually make a decision and it won't be based on money. So she may want to go back to college, play another year. But I don't know if the rivalry is going to be there because Caitlin Clark is leaving. But these two basketball stars, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, they kind of got into it back in 2023 because of the whole John Cena face thing. Caitlin Clark did it first. It was her thing. Now, when Caitlin Clark did it, um, she didn't direct it at anybody. Caitlin Clark is also demonstrative sometime in her passion when she's playing. It's in a different way. It's accepted differently. I got to be careful how I say this because then people will think that I'm siding with her. But I guess I am. Okay. She does things that I wouldn't want my own daughter to do. In fact, the other day when she was looking at the refs going, "Come on," and her dad was actually in the stand, was like, "Come on, Caitlin, stop." Jesus Christ, he was saying. He was like, "Stop it." He was, looking at his daughter and he was giving her instructions and direction to just play the game, stop, whining and bitching to the refs. And I appreciated that. As a parent, I think I would do the same. But last year, during the whole John Cena facial thing, um, that happened. So when it was time for LSU to play Iowa in the championship, Angel Reese thought it's get back time. Now, did I think that Angel Reese went overboard? I thought if Angel Reese had done it one time, I would have been okay with it. You know what? Caitlin did it. Angel did it. It's over. But she went on for like the last 3 minutes of the game, after the game, going directly up to her face, pointing at her ring, doing more facial stuff. I thought it was overkill. I'm sorry. Um, But anyway, that's how the whole LSU Iowa rival started. The girls have said publicly in the media they don't have a problem with each other, and Reese just felt disrespected. Anyway, that went on and on and on, and some people took sides, and people took the side of Angel Reese. Some people took the side of Caitlin Clark, and what we got is a rivalry that ensued. They used to actually call Caitlin Clark the queen of clapback because she trash talks on the court. Now, a lot of people don't know this. If you don't pay a lot of attention to basketball like I do, if I asked you who was the biggest trash talker in the NBA historically, there's one player who you probably wouldn't say their name. That player was Larry Bird. Larry Bird took a lot of heat when he played. He was one of the best players in the NBA, playing in a league with mostly black players. And there's history that Larry Bird, he talked shit. Like he really, really, really talked a lot of trash. but he did it quietly. He did it under his breath. He did it when the cameras weren't watching. And every time he got on during the press conferences on the stand, he never trash talked. He was very sportsmanlike. He was a statesman. So you would have never known that Larry Bird was one of the biggest trash talkers. That's Caitlin Clark. She tries to avoid the cameras. They catch her now because she's a star, but she said to one of the girls, I think it was a Louisville player, "You're down 15 points. Shut up." I think the cameras caught her lip syncing. She did the whole face taunt. She didn't expect the cameras to be watching. So Caitlin Clark, like Larry Bird, is a taunter, and she's a trash talker. Where Angel Reese and Flaugier and those guys, LSU, they're more upfront with it. They're out there with it. They do it in social media. They do it on Twitter. They do it on Insta. They do it everywhere. They do it on at the press conferences, on the stands. So they're harshly criticized for their behavior and their conduct. And so it's unfair to a degree, but I always say be Larry Bird. Okay. There was a lot of trash talkers in the NBA, but Larry Bird rarely got caught. And it wasn't until social media, it wasn't until now that other players start saying how Larry Bird was the biggest trash talker in the NBA. So there you go. That's how that rivalry came to be. And this year, people were waiting for it. ESPN's Stephen A. Smith, he said, let's call it what it is. He goes, Clark started the waving. She did the John Cena. She said, you can't see me. And she didn't expect to get caught. But the players on the court saw her and they were like, what? So you got to know that this is where we are. And Angel Reese got some get back. Stephen A. Smith said she didn't mind being disrespectful. So why is it that we're hesitant to bring that up when she was disrespectful? And I think it's because Angel Reese was a little overboard. She went on with the ring. She went on with the face taunts. She got up in her face with it. And some people didn't like that. So that's how all that started. But then, people start calling Angel Reese classless. That started trending. Thug, ghetto ass. You know what? When you start attacking a person personally like that, that kind of gets to me. I have said I don't like LSU. I've been dragged through that. People that not liked me saying that because, and we're going to talk about later where this ultimately went. I like sportsmanship because Keith Olbermann had even said something about Reese is an effing idiot. Well, he didn't. Come on, this is a 20, 21-year-old woman. You don't have to call her an effing idiot in a tweet. Come on. That's uncalled for. I think Portnoy said something on Barstool about her. It's unnecessary. I've said things in private, but I would never go to social media and say those things about these young ladies. It's uncalled for. So that's how the rivalry started. Both of them, hell of a players. Both of them, Angel Reese, doubles throughout the tournament. Caitlin Clark banging down threes, averaging 34 points a game. You can't say anything about their game. So, of course, unfortunately, there was a taint of racism in the tournament. And what I mean by that, I'm not saying that it was a racist tournament. I'm saying that racism became a subject matter during the tournament. And that was unfortunate. And there was no need for that. So let me explain. For me, my dislike for LSU, my dislike for Flaugier Johnson and Angel Reese has nothing to do with color. And some people out there think that when you, if you didn't like LSU, you were racist. If you criticize the LSU players, then that's racism. And if you're a black person that does it, you're a sellout. For me, it was never about race. For me, it's about sportsmanship. It's about decorum, how you conduct yourself, how you present yourself to the public. And I can be judgmental. I come from a different era. I'm a Gen Xer. Some people may call me a boomer because of when I was born. I'm in my 50s. And what we call decorum and public conduct may be different than how some younger people see it today. I'm really, really good friends with lot of people who are even 20, 25 years younger than me. And we have debates back and forth about what's acceptable behavior and what's not. I can be judgmental and I get in trouble from other black people because I don't always support the culture. You know, what some consider the culture and what I consider the culture can be two very different things. We have debates within the black community all the time about what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and black people are called sellouts and things like that. Candace Owens, for one, who I watch a lot of her videos, how she views the culture is similar to how I see the culture. And I know that a lot of people call her a sellout as well, says that she's always dragging down black people and things like that. And it just might not be aligned with how some younger black people see it today. I do respect the youth and where they're taking the black community sometimes, but I don't always agree with it and I don't always find it acceptable. Um, when I was young in my youth, I was at the inception of hip hop. I came up with Rapper's Delight, hip hop, the hippie to the hippie to, all that stuff. I came along in hip hop when it was very diverse in terms of what true hip hop truly is. The essence of hip hop covers a full spectrum of what it means to live in a poor black neighborhood and community, from the style of dress to graffiti to dance to slang, the language, all of which has been adopted by America. Like much of the language that we use universally throughout our country and even in the media comes from hip hop. It's been appropriated. Much of the bravado and the behaviors and the emotes are from hip hop, from stretching your jersey out. Remember Kobe Bryant? He started that, stretching the jersey out. Then every high school player in America in the inner city was showing their number, popping jerseys, doing the threes if they hit a three, ice water in my veins when they do that after that. All those emotes are hip hop and they come from hip hop artists. You know what I mean? But the hip hop that I grew up with and I loved from the 80s and 90s and even early 2000s, it wasn't just about sex, drugs, and alcohol and sipping on syrup and, abusing Robitussin, all that craziness. It was about dancing and partying and fun. It was about Black empowerment. It was about a movement, women's empowerment, knowledge of self, learning who we are as a race historically. Um, and it's just changed. And a lot of people just have not accepted it or find that this new hip hop culture acceptable. So if people don't find it acceptable in the black community, I'm talking about some blacks, maybe my generation, you know damn well that middle America or white America is not going to accept it either. They may see it as thuggish, insulting, um, just lack of personal choice and behavior. And so a lot of hip hop doesn't resonate with me and it doesn't resonate with my generation and it's not acceptable and it doesn't resonate with a lot of America. But all that being said, my inability to embrace some of today's culture um, can oftentimes be viewed as selling out. I'm not selling out. I just don't. I'm raising children of my own. I want them to be and act a certain way, and it may not be the way that some people say. And Flau'jae Johnson, the LSU basketball player, said, "Coach told me be me." And you know what? I appreciate to a certain degree. I would say John Thompson, iconic coach of the Georgetown Hoyas. He coached Allen Iverson, who's my favorite NBA player of all time. All time. I love Allen Iverson. He introduced cornrows to the culture, to the NBA culture, baggy shorts, as the Fab Fives used to do, did it first. But then Allen Iverson came to the NBA, baggy shorts, tattoos, cornrows, and the NBA was changed forever. It got so bad that the Commissioner Stern had to say we are now going to wear suits and dress up appropriately when we come to NBA games. Whether you're on the bench or coming to the locker room, you're going to come a certain way. A lot of people saw that as racist. But Allen Iverson, who's my favorite player of all time, always went to the podium respectable. He might have had a do rag on. He might have had a large gold chains. He might have used hip hop language, didn't speak in the best lexicon or grammar, but he was always respectful on the podium. And his great, we talking about practice speech, was one of the greatest speeches ever, the most iconic speech ever. You can't find a press conference like the Allen Iverson speech. We talking about practice. It was emotional. It was just everything. So I loved it. I loved it. And that was Allen Iverson being who he was authentically. And I don't say I'm not ever going to tell someone don't be yourself, but also be mindful of where you are and who's watching, because that heat lamp can get hot. And what happens to chicken when it lays under the heat lamp too long? It burns. All right. I simply don't have a worldview based on color. I didn't say I don't see color. I do see color. I appreciate color. I appreciate culture. I appreciate ethnicities, but I don't have a worldview and make choices and decisions based on color. I did it one time, but I do think that with maturity, you tend to let those things go. You start focusing on progress um, and growth, where color no longer has the same impact on your life as it once seemed to have. You see what I'm saying? I think when you're younger, you're emotional and you're passionate, and color means everything, especially when you see others. So when you see things like, Angel Reese crying, she's crying because she's young. All right. She's taking a lot of heat. People are calling her names on social media. They're dragging her name through the mud. They're calling her thug, gangster, you know, ghetto. And she said, I just have to keep a face for my teammates. I'm a leader, but it hurts. And I feel her. I feel her. It has to hurt. Um, Flau'jae Johnson. I didn't even know she was a rapper, which kind of goes to show how out of touch I was with that. But here's my point. Here's what I would tell my own children. The way they talk and behave on the court and in the media and the way they conduct themselves, the self just does not align with how I believe athletes should act. You know, any athlete of any race, I didn't even know Flau'jae was a rapper, like I said. So, you know, sometimes I guess I'm out of touch with some of today's culture. I have a student athlete of my own, plays college softball. Watched her, supported her for the last 14 years. She started when she was like 7 years old. I've always taught her sportsmanship. I used to tease her when she played basketball, and I always to tell her to taunt. I knew she wouldn't. That's not who she is. But I just love basketball more than I love softball. But I do love softball because my daughter plays it. But that being said, I taught her sportsmanship. I taught her, public conduct, and how important it is to gain respect, from the community at large. So when I'm unaccepting of braggadocious bravado of athletes, please know it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with me selling out, but I will call it out. I may not sell out, but I'll call it out. And when I do call it out, I make myself a target. And do I like to hear white people call black youth thugs and gangsters and ghetto just because of the way they conduct themselves? No, that's the culture they're in. You're not going to change them by calling them names. It's irritating. It pisses me off. But at the same time, I know that how you act and speak, it will create, um, and an atmosphere that ignites, and insults, racism. So I say just don't do it. And some people might see that as selling out or, assimilating to white culture. I just call it decency. My mom and pop would call it decency. Um, And so this morning I had to see Angel Reese crying on television because of how hard it is being who she is. But all right, so let's move on to my last topic of the day. Miss Rebecca Lobo. you know. So Rebecca Lobo, she's catching heat because she said Good luck finding something to do in Albany, and it has exploded in Albany. Um, so I moved into Albany from Philadelphia, which is a heavily populated city, lots to do in different sections of the city. So when you compare Albany to New York City, or you compare Albany to Philadelphia, what you need to do is break it down into maybe boroughs or communities, because Philadelphia and New York City or even Washington, they have pockets all over the city, and each one of those pockets have an entertainment complex. Like, you don't have to travel across New York City. Like, if you're gonna hang out in Brooklyn, you hang out in Brooklyn. If you're gonna hang out in if you're gonna hang out in Manhattan, you hang out in Manhattan. There's something to do in each of these boroughs. And the capital region, Albany, is the same way. You can go to Troy and hang out for the night. You can go to Schenectady and hang out for the night. And at one time, you could hang out in Albany, but it's gone. So I moved here in 2000. First place I lived was in Guilderland, and friends at my job took me out, and we went downtown Albany. And Pearl Street was popping. I think we got there at like, first time was like 10 p.m. and the bars were open, the nightclubs were open. Some of the clubs had multiple floors. The Big House, if you remember, shout out to the Big House. There were multiple floors of entertainment, and then Jillian's came, and Jillian's had levels of entertainment. I remember Blue 82 and Pizzeria 54, where lines were out the door getting food at 2 a.m. in the morning, people vomiting on the street, all the college kids hanging out in Albany. There was literally something to do in Albany. And I know whenever you have that type of atmosphere, it brings an element of crime, but then beef up the police force, because you don't think New Orleans has crime. You don't think Charlotte has crime in its entertainment areas, or Charleston, Los Angeles, all these big cities. Wherever there's entertainment, wherever there's a nightlife, you are going to get an element of crime. Don't tell me that you shut down the whole fun because, okay, someone got stabbed or someone got shot. That's what happened when you get large groups of people together. And I remember um, when I used to go to Albany on a regular basis, ecstasy was big, crack cocaine was big. There was just a lot of stuff going on, elements that were going on that wasn't very acceptable. So I say, because you killed all the fun in Albany, now you don't have a nightlife, and people go elsewhere. They go to Troy to hang out. They go to Schenectady to hang out. They go to Saratoga. I got to drink. I got to catch an Uber. I'm talking about me personally. I live in Saratoga County. But if I wanted to go live in Albany, or I live in, North Colony, and I want to go out, I got to take an Uber all the way to Saratoga to have a good time, or Troy, and then get an Uber back. Notice I didn't say drive, because I don't want you out there driving. I don't want you driving in Albany drunk. But my point is, there should be some type of entertainment complex right here in the city of Albany. And Rebecca Lobo, who some might find it unprofessional, but when you're a sports analyst, when you're a TV analyst, not just the game is in fair play, but the venue's in fair play, the city's in fair play. Charles Barkley called Salt Lake City during the NBA All-Star game this boring ass city. These people, they're going to heaven because there's nothing to do. Shaq even just said, I never had as much room service in my life because there's nothing to do in Salt Lake City. So, yeah, your city's in play for criticism when you bring big events here. Now, when the Belmont comes to Saratoga, I don't think you're going to hear the same thing. People are going to be talking about Broadway and all the fun places there are to go in Saratoga, on Phyla, on Caroline. Someone mentioned to you, oh, well, what about culture and museums and theater? All of that is in Saratoga Springs. And even when you come south of Saratoga Springs to my town and Boston Spa and Malta, you're going to have things to do. Boston Spa, come on, we got things to do. We got breweries, man. We got great restaurants. We have a nightlife in the little town of Boston Spa in Malta. We got, Bentley's and Henry's and Front Street Social Club, and we have things to do more more than there is to do in the city of Albany after 6 o'clock. So that's it. That was my guys. 3 o'clock today. I will be interviewing Giovanni Lisi. He's a real estate investor, so I will be back live for that with Giovanni. But right now, I just wanted to point out that we had so much to talk about with March Madness. Great job today or this week with March Madness. I cannot wait. Like I said, I went to last year's March Madness and it was nothing like this year. It didn't have the heat, it didn't have the news stories. It was just a lot of people in the arena, but man, this year was just amazing. And I loved all the drama that came with it, both good and bad. And it just makes what I'm doing right now exciting. So you guys have a great day. I hope to see you at 3 when I have a more serious podcast, and I will be talking to Giovanni Lisi about investing in real estate, whether you're going to flip or hold. Um, It'll be a great show. He's going to give us a lot of insight and instruction behind that. You guys take care. I will talk to you later. Have a good one, guys.